all. And it's customary when we've done these types of things at Christmas, which we're doing. I think this is our 6th year doing something in Penumbra at Christmas. And so it's a tradition. And it's normal for us to say a few things about Christmas. So I thought I'd just share, I won't go more than a couple of hours. But you know, Christmas sort of comes in 2 parts. There's an overlying shelter, an umbrella, if you like, over Christmas. That's the theology of Christmas. And then there's the reality of Christmas. And I just want to speak to everyone here tonight because I know you come from different cultural, different religious, different ethnic backgrounds. I even met someone from England. And so I know I'm speaking to a wide range of people with all sorts of viewpoints. But just from the Christmas perspective, this might help all of us. I think it should encourage all of us, no matter where we are in life. Matthew is the first book of the New Testament in the Bible, and he's got a phrase in there, he uses it a lot. He says, so all this was done that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet. And then he goes on and tells us all these examples, at least 12 of them just in Matthew. So he's going back in history and saying hundreds of years ago, somebody said this would happen, and now it's happened. That's what he says. So Matthew wanted to point out to his readers that the birth of Jesus was no coincidence. It wasn't a fluke. As a matter of fact, there were 300 prophecies, at least, that came to pass in Jesus' lifetime, which puts it way past the mathematical possibility. So here's the first one that he mentioned. He said, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and call his name Emmanuel. So Emmanuel means God with us, or actually if you dig into it, the man that was born of the mother and God. That's a nice little thought, isn't it? And Emmanuel means God with us. So Isaiah said that hundreds of years before, and Matthew said, look at that, here's a little child born of a virgin. The Bible said hundreds of years ago that he'd be born in Bethlehem. But you, Bethlehem, it says, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people. And strange as it may seem, Jesus came out of Bethlehem. This is the overarching sort of Bible perspective on Christmas, which is, I'm going somewhere else, but you need to understand this. Herod killed all the babies in Bethlehem. And the Bible says a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children. Hundreds of years before it happened. Matthew's just dishing these out one over the other. He talks about a prophecy that said Jesus would come out of Egypt. Out of Egypt I've called my son. And he points out that's exactly what happened to Jesus, because he had to flee from being killed by Herod. And so he fled Joseph, his father and mother Mary, to Egypt. When they came back, they fulfilled that promise. Out of Egypt I called my son. So this big umbrella over Christmas, Jesus of Nazareth was born a Jew. These are some of the things from the lineage of Abraham and David. He proclaimed his messiahship 483 years after the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. We haven't gone there this year, but that's what it says in Daniel, and it was right down to the year. Jesus was executed by crucifixion. Daniel indicated that he'd be cut off or killed, is the old Hebrew way of saying that, not for himself, but for others. Who were those others? Us. Isaiah 53 prophesied he would die a substitutionary death on behalf of his people. And in keeping with Daniel 9:24, he died for the purpose of making atonement for sins. And 3 days after his death, he was resurrected. So it sounds all great if you're a theologian or a historian. But what about when it actually happened? It was actually a very inconvenient truth. Joseph and Mary fell in love. That part was nice. they got betrothed. And in Jewish tradition back then, they had 12 months where they got to know each other, but they weren't intimate with each other, but they got to know each other, they got to know how they lived and how they thought, and so on. But during that time, these two righteous people, we're told, found out that Mary was pregnant. And Joseph's dream crashed. He didn't know what had happened, that God had impregnated, if you like, Mary. He didn't know that. So Joseph got his whole life came to an end when he got that news. And he could have had a stone, but he was a gentle man. He was a lovely man. And so he said he'd just put her away privately. And that kind and gentle man was the man that God chose to be Jesus' father on earth. But then when Mary heard that Joseph was going to put her away, her world crashed. So this is the reality of that great overarching prophetic word that God would come to earth as Jesus. But it actually cost somebody a lot. It was an inconvenient truth. And if it wasn't for an angel enlightening Joseph in a dream, their whole marriage, their whole betrothal in those days, it was equal to marriage. They had to have a divorce to get out of it. And so you can see that it was actually, theologically, it was all very good. But when it was you going through this was a horrible experience. And Joseph and Mary, once they reconciled and understood what was going on, then the whole world looked at them and thought they were cheap. They thought that they were immoral. And so this was not an easy truth to actually work out. And then the baby was coming. So they planned like all new parents. Many of us are parents, you paint the room, paint the cot, put the wallpaper up, I'm going to do all those things when the little babies are coming. And just at the time when that was happening, Caesar decrees that he wants a census and everybody has to go back to their hometown. And would you believe it, the very date that the baby's due was when she had to travel, they had to travel 12 days to get there. This is not convenient. This is the big biblical picture in reality. In reality, it was tough. It was inconvenient. Things weren't going right. What they planned was all gone down the tubes. And you know, it was tough. Mary had to ride a pony or a horse, they reckon, for 10 to 12 days down to Bethlehem, to the city of David, where Joseph came from. I've never been pregnant, but some of you have. And, you know, I don't think you'd want to ride a horse for 12 days. There were no stopping at the Royal Dolphin or whatever it would be, not the Royal Dolphin, but some flash hotel, just need to go to the bathroom. This is a rocky, stony road between two cities where there are thieves and no public conveniences whatsoever. This was a terrible experience. Some of you need to realise that your terrible experience in life is actually part of a bigger picture, and it's all going to work out. You wait. And so this 12-day journey, just when Mary should be resting, just if you had planned it out, and she wanted it at home in her bedroom where it was all wallpapered and painted. And when they get to Bethlehem, because they had to travel slowly, they got there last, and there was no inn. And so they end up in a cave, if you look into the Greek, in a cave with the sheep. And all their plans have just gone down the Google. Has anyone here had your plans go down the Google ever?
Regular.
Yeah? And so all that flash baby stuff is back in Nazareth. So they had to wrap the baby in swaddling clothes. How bad can it get? Old rags that they used to, there's a real story behind it, but they wrapped up the lambs in. And then they put him in a stone manger. They've actually discovered this field. They know where it is. The caves are all there. And there's these stone mangers, just carved out stones, laying the baby in this manger, not a beautiful cot. And so my encouragement for you this Christmas, there is a big picture, and you're in it. And it works out, and it's wonderful. So what you're going through right now might be absolutely the opposite of what you expected. It may be against your grain. It may be something that's really hurting you, making you trust God completely. Just think, Lord, this is just not fair. It's not right. Well, God has a plan for everyone. Everyone here tonight. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. This is our God. Plans to give you hope and a future. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good. For those who are called according to His purpose. It's all working out. That's what God wants you to know this Christmas. Psalm 33, the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of His heart through all generations. He'll get you to where you need to be. Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. Psalm 32:8, I'll instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye on you. Proverbs 3 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways submit. You know, Mary and Joseph, we don't read of them actually grumbling at all. They submitted. And then when things are not right, when things are difficult, when it's very adversarial, when life's against us, God has a plan and it will work out for you and me. In all your ways, submit to Him and He'll make your path straight. And so this Christmas, I just have a sense that many are facing situations that are not easy, they're not ideal, they're not what you planned. If you wrote a little plan about your life, this is not in it, whatever you're facing. But God's overarching plan is that He has a future and a hope for you, and He's getting you there. And that's the story of Christmas that I saw in those things this Christmas. I just see that even though it was so hard for Mary and Joseph and so crippling and so hurtful, they got through it and they fulfilled prophecy from centuries before. Your life's got a word of God over it. He's got an end in view for you. He wants you to be blessed. He wants you to be successful. He loves you. And He will get you to a place where you win. So happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Well,
Thank you, God.
Compassion.